One of the main challenges is getting everyone on board from an organisation, both internally and externally. So what we're seeing now, a lot of organisations really sort of building project plans around that and getting clear stakeholder investment and buy-in to these processes. And then from there, defining the project team that's going to be able to implement this going forward. I think one thing that stands out is all about the engagement of this legislation, engagement concept. It's internal engagement, but it's also engagement with third parties and those ecosystems. And that fits very well into what we do as a business. One of our key pillars is all about engagement, and we've got a whole range of tools that enable organisations to engage with third parties. I think one thing we're all agreed on is there's going to be more legislation. I think what we've seen over the last few years is country-specific legislation in markets like Australia, Germany and Canada, and then region-wide legislation across the EU and the CSDDD. So I think there'll be more and more legislation. So I think organisations have to, we heard it today on the seminar, on the various presentations, they've got to get their house in order now, way ahead of the legislation. Well, I think that the changes that are happening, the legislation is relatively new, but it's not going to be enacted or be coming to force till 2028. So what's really interesting is that organisations have got plenty of time to get their house in order, so to speak. But what we've seen is that organisations are already ahead of that legislation. I think the legislation is quite prescriptive in many ways, and that's specifically what organisations have to do. I think what's really interesting is that this isn't just to get organisations to stop engaging with third parties. It's getting organisations to continue to work with third parties, but make them better, so to speak, which is very different to a lot of other legislation we've seen historically.